Welcome to this special election night coverage presented by Weha.com. I'm John Lyons, joined as always by Ronnie Newton, the managing editor of Weha.com. We welcome those of you that are watching locally on TV Channel 5, on Neighbors and Friends, and statewide on Connecticut News Junkie. So first, let's bring you and me up here, Ronnie. Let's do that first. Boom. Make sure we get this going, and then we can start our show here. Here we go.
Hello, everybody.
There we go. So tonight we're going to bring you election results, reactions to a frenetic day and season of voting, as well as an instant reaction from just about all of the local candidates running from office and some other elected leaders. Later, we're going to speak to Senator Richard Blumenthal and get a taste of what's happening nationally with several key Senate races, as well as what's happening with Texas. We're going to talk a lot about Texas, I think. It's just, to me, it's so fascinating what's happening there with the incredible turnout being reported statewide. 2 million new registered voters, the bulk of which between 18 and 24 years old. They exceeded their entire turnout for 2016 just on advanced voting, mail-in and early voting. So pretty incredible stuff. We're going to kick it right off here. We've got a great guest. We've got Kevin Sullivan, who is the former lieutenant governor of West Hartford. Well, you were the governor of West Hartford. You were the mayor of West Hartford. And you were also the lieutenant governor of the state of Connecticut in the Rell administration. Kevin, how are you? Oh, okay. I got to take him off mute. Kevin, I'm so sorry. There you go. Let's try that again. Kevin,
John, there are people who have lived all their lives to have the opportunity to mute me.
Well, there we go. Well,
John has that privilege. How are you, Kevin?
I am well, Ronnie. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
So Kevin, we've got a really jam-packed program tonight. So I got to jump right to the question. I wanted you to come on tonight because I think you give us a really unique historical perspective.
That means old.
Well, I'm being nice, so I gotta be nice. But and really, I think back. I was too young to remember it. I was old enough to remember McGovern in '72, but really, 1968 was such a time of turmoil here in the United States. Can you tell us any stories? How did the country heal after that, and how do we heal after this one? Because this was a rough one by any measure.
Well, I mean, I think this one is the roughest. The second roughest probably in the history of the entire country. I mean, that old expression, vote as if your life depended on it. And I think a lot of people did exactly that today. They believed that their life depended on the outcome of this election. 1860, 1876, clearly we've had closer and more divisive years. 1968 was that. But I think there are some pretty clear differences. Even in 1968, there was more of a generational division. I think we still had two mainstream political parties, Democrats and Republicans. And this year, unfortunately, and I say that even as a Democrat, unfortunately, I think we have lost the value of having the mainstream Republican Party competing. So that clearly is different today than it was then. Not so much in West Hartford, but obviously nationally, there wasn't the same kind of background of real extremism. I mean, there were different points of view, particularly around the war in Vietnam, but there wasn't the kind of extremism, if you put aside the riots and the fights and the demonstrations in Chicago that year, that let's put it this way. As I drove around today, there were, thanks to the Mayor Cantor, there were police stationed at every single polling place. That's not usually something we do. That's a measure of one of the things. It's quite different today, and that certainly wasn't something you would have seen in 1968. And God knows the pandemic is probably that's what's there's going to be two stories coming out of this, depending on how the election goes this evening. One story will obviously, hopefully, in my humble estimation, be the repudiation of the Trump regime. The other will be how we have gotten through this with the pandemic, and maybe the silver lining of learning that there are other ways of voting than the kind of ways we've required people to do in the past. Maybe this is a wake-up call to say it's time for universal mail-in early voting.
It seemed, and Kevin, we already have to wrap up, but one parting shot for me, it did seem Governor Lamont had a press conference here in town the other day to talk about absentee and mail-in voting, and it definitely seems like it's on the radar. Derek Slapp mentioned it. Representative Gilchrist mentioned it. Governor Lamont talked about it. To me, it strikes me as something that is now clearly on the radar going forward, hopefully as this country heals both from this election and from COVID.
I hope that's the case, and I hope we do that healing. I think that it's an opportunity. If the Democrats, as I hope, are successful, we have to not try to fall back on that debate we had during the primary season and begin to immediately have an ideological confrontation with one another. The American people are not going to watch that. If it's Trump again, then we've got to figure out how we sort of beat back the vigilantism that has arisen. And I'd throw one challenge out, and that is, it'd be really great if the existing Congress, not even the new one, the existing Congress were to come together finally in the time between the election and the next Congress and finally pass bipartisan COVID legislation. That would be a healing message, I think, to the whole country.
Well, Kevin, you hit on, you gave us a perfect opportunity to tease the interview we have coming up with Senator Blumenthal, because we talk about that exact topic in the interview.
Great.
So,
thank you.
Kevin, thank you so much,
Kevin.
for coming on.
Ronnie, thanks for doing this.
Great
Take
to
care.
see you.
All right. And Ronnie, we're going to call a race. This is very exciting.
All right.
Our first
Are we
race.
calling Florida?
We're not calling Florida. I think it might be a little while before we call Florida, but we are calling the first race. We're calling Kate Farrar. She is the winner of Connecticut's 20th district. Congratulations to Kate Farrar. And Kate, we are going to bring you in right now. We have her here, and she's ready to tell us a little bit about what's going on. So, Kate, how are you tonight?
Well, I'm great. Thank you all for sharing that bit of news. Hearing it for the first time, I have to say, is a bit surreal in this surreal year that we've had. But I'm just so grateful for the trust of the voters and our community right now, and can't wait to get to work.
Well, we can't wait for you to get to work. You ran a really great, it was a really interesting campaign. You hit the ground running before COVID. You hit the ground running in January. You were knocking on doors. You had people knocking on doors for you. Tell us a little bit about, you went through that. Then you had another challenge where you faced a primary challenger. So you had to go through it twice. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, to your point, it was always from the beginning about connecting with voters, connecting with our community.
Coffee.
So when I started out in January pre-COVID, we couldn't have imagined what was in front of us for this campaign. But I have to say, starting in March, as soon as COVID hit, it meant we were calling people just to make sure they were doing okay, as real wellness checks. And as you said, as we went through the summer, people really wanted ways to connect. And we started socially distanced door knocking and making sure that people could have their voice heard any way possible, be that online, be that in phones, or be that at their doorstep with masks. And as you said, it was a campaign unlike any other. But I think it just proves how much our community is looking to make sure that they're heard right now and that they have a champion.
So now you were campaigning up through today, which I know because my son came home from work and said, "Mom, I got a message from Kate Farrar. She actually called me. She left me a voicemail, and it was really her." And he couldn't answer because he was at work and he couldn't have his phone with him, but he is a second-time voter in the presidential election and was very happy to go vote in person after he got home from work today.
That's wonderful. And like you said, I think we're seeing, like your son, so many first-time, second-time voters out there who know that this is an election of their lifetime, but of our lifetime and so many ages' lifetimes. And, to me, it was important, especially even today, making calls to make sure that people were making sure that their voices were heard with their vote.
So tell us a little bit about how your family reacted to the news that you have won the 20th. What did they say to you? What were the emotions? What were you feeling?
Well, I think it's been a little odd, I would say, even for us as candidates here in West Hartford the last couple of days, because, we've certainly been taking precautions for ourselves and haven't been doing any public events. So it was a great little kind of cheer I had a few minutes ago, and had certainly some music going to make sure that we really took that moment in to celebrate before we wait for, all of the results that we're going to be waiting for in the days ahead.
Well, congratulations. It was a great race, and you had your share of challenges. You hit the ground running. You were prepared for them all, and now you get to serve your district and serve the state. So I think that's great news, and congratulations, Kate.
And one
Thanks
one
to you
last
both.
message.
Yeah, Ronnie. Yeah.
If you have a statement, an official statement, can you email it to me? Because after we are done with the show, I'll be writing up a story on the West Hartford results. So I'd love to have your official statement about your victory tonight, and congratulations.
Thank you both. And thanks for hosting this and for having me on. And yeah, it's just starting, right? All these results are just starting. So stay safe, you all.
You too.
See you
Thanks,
soon.
Kate.
All righty. So Ronnie, good. We're rolling here. We've got next up Mayor Cantor. There is a technical issue. I don't know what it is. We've started, and I don't think we can stop here. So, but the TV side is having a problem picking up the feed. I don't know what's wrong there. So, but Facebook and YouTube are not communicating. So we're going to keep rolling. I'm going to bring up the mayor, Sherry Cantor. Ronnie, are you okay with that? Should we keep rolling here?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So we're going to bring up the mayor. And we got a 5 countdown, and there we are. Mayor Sherry Cantor, Mayor of West Hartford. How are you?
No, I'm good. It was a good day. There was a incredible turnout, and our professional election of the election people, all of our town clerk, our registrars, all the volunteers were amazing, and there was a lot of preparation, and it showed. So I'm so proud of everybody. It was great.
Well, the turnout, and I'm going to show the slide when we get Essie up. Essie's in the green room right now, but we're going to spend a few minutes with you before we bring her up. But the turnout is phenomenal. Over 80%. Ronnie, you've got the latest there. You sent it to me a little while ago.
Yeah, so I'm actually still waiting for Essie to give me the absentee ballot counts, and maybe she'll be able to give us that while we're on, and I'll update.
Well, you know what? Let's bring her up then. What are we waiting for, right?
All right. Well, actually, but I can't do Excel at the same time as
Okay.
as I'm talking.
Hopefully Essie can, because Essie, you're on. How are you, Essie?
Hey, good. How are you?
So Essie, the last time you slept was September 14th. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Uninterrupted, no bad dreams.
I just
counting ballots. People count sheep. I count ballots.
Well, hopefully it's all going to be over in a couple of days. So Essie, let's start with you here. Tell us a little bit about the turnout. Do you have any final numbers yet?
I have the only numbers I have are as far as the absentee count goes, and we picked up just about 65 in the last drop box at 8 p.m. here at Town Hall. We're awaiting Faxon Library to bring their final ballots in, but we've been checking multiple times throughout the day. So it looks like we're going to be close to 18,700.
Wow. I mean, that's
amazing.
Yeah, it is. And the interesting thing, the way the numbers work is we also have about 187 overseas voters, and these are people that live permanently overseas, and they are not in our registered rolls, but because they last lived in Connecticut and West Hartford, they can vote for federal offices. And so during a presidential year, we tend to get a number of these. We issued over 200, but we got 187 of them back. So that is added into the count.
And Ronnie, I'm trying to quickly find that email where you put the attachment in, but I've had probably 100 emails since. Unfortunately, it's just been one of those. It got a little crazy before the show, but the turnout was, I think the overall turnout was well over 80%. Certainly, I believe a record breaker, Essie, for this town.
Well, the last time that I looked back on our records, and I think at that time it was George Bush and Dukakis.
Dukakis, yeah, would have been in '88. Would have been Bush Dukakis.
Yep.
So yeah. So now you're going to see your faces disappear. We can still hear your voices. I'm going to show a couple of screens here because I headed over to Town Hall and I took some pictures today. So Essie, I want you to walk us through this a little bit. Some really amazing stuff in terms of. Now I got to find the pictures. Made us all disappear here. There we go.
It's a lovely blue screen there.
I know. Well, yeah, normally they call that the blue screen of death, but and I'm trying to find. Okay, I mean, oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. I got it. Okay, so this is town hall. This was around 7:50 this morning, if I remember correctly. I took this picture. But Essie, I'm going to get into. This is over at Sedgwick. Not a big line at Sedgwick. I was there. That was around 10 o'clock this morning. This is the line over at Charter Oak. It was about an hour wait when I got there. But people were socially distanced. You can see here, but you can't see the end of the line. It wraps all the way around. It went out onto the road. So this Essie, you can talk us through what's going on here. I took some pictures of the ballot counting today.
Right. So as of today, we turned over 17,591 to the registrars. There's a very strict chain of custody. Once I enter all the absentee ballots into the system, we recount them, we turn them over to the registrars. They count them as well. And then it's in their custody. There's an affidavit that's signed by everyone. And then it's turned over to the head moderator. And this is what they are doing at Town Hall starting at 8 o'clock this morning. They were taking out the ballots out of the inner envelope and they were separating them. They were making sure that their signatures were on the inner envelope. If there is no signature, unfortunately, the ballot cannot be counted. So those are set aside. They're written that they are rejected, and then the counters have to tally them. And it's all very, it's a manual process. Since the ballots are folded, they don't go into the tabulator as easy as the polling place ballot. So once those are all checked off and separated, they're flattened out, and then they're entered into the tabulator. So we expect to have close to 17,000 put through today. I believe they're going to be working a few more hours at it. And then tomorrow they will come back and count the additional ballots that were received today. The reason they can't count what we've received today is that they have to check off from the poll books to make sure that the ballots we received today, that the voter did not go to any of the polling places.
So, Essie, I know they were feeding the ballots through the machines today. Was there a lot of breakage? Were there a lot of mistakes, or was it pretty smooth?
It was pretty smooth as far as I know. I know they were talking that it was less than 1%. This was very early. Less than 1% errors on the part of the voter. And so the smaller number we have, the happier we are, because we don't like to see inner envelopes without a signature. And unfortunately, we did receive a few in the ballot drop box with just the inner envelope. And we looked at the signature. The signature was not legible, so we have no way of going back and finding who that voter might be. Because without that outer envelope, without the electoral label that has the voter's name and address, we have no way of knowing who executed that ballot.
All right. Incredible work. We want to get to Mayor Cantor and spend a few minutes with her while we have time. But thank you for the update. The turnout was unbelievable, and the work by your folks was, I mean, I witnessed it firsthand this morning. It's just incredible, the effort that they went to and the work that they performed this year.
Thank you.
Please text me the final numbers when you know how many absentee ballots.
I'm going to run downstairs now and see what we can get.
Excellent. I'll
And
update
Ronnie, if you get the final numbers while we're on air, please share. Okay.
Oh, I'll shout it out.
Okay. All right, Essie. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, Mayor Cantor, thank you for sitting through that. I felt you would be interested in hearing a lot of that, so that's why I wanted to let her go and talk about that. So one of the things, you were complimented by a previous guest, Kevin Sullivan was on. He's a former mayor, past mayor of West Hartford, and he talked about about the safety and security measures you took at the polling locations. He was very complimentary. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, we just wanted to make sure that voters felt they would be secure, but we didn't want them to feel intimidated in any way. So there was a presence and we encouraged and we worked with the police department and making sure that we provided protection and assurance of safety without any kind of intimidation. That was never the role. But if anything were to happen, they would have been right there. We do, shockingly, in Connecticut, have an open carry. And we can't, it's against the law on school grounds, but on public on town property and other locations like town hall, it's not against the law. So there was some buildup before the election, and I think there was a lot of concern, but nationally, it did not look like there was real voter intimidation in any way, and that was really an encouraging sign for everybody. I'm really happy that there was not a major issue.
Was there any incident in West Hartford that you were aware of today? I haven't.
I understand there was one voter. I don't know if actually it was a voter, to be honest. There was one person that came in wearing gear that said one of the candidates, and that's against the law. And they asked them to leave. So there was a little bit of, but that was it. I mean, obviously we've got a pandemic, and then we have the safety of voters in a highly polarized and very emotional, I think, election time. So we just really wanted to be safe and make sure that everybody really felt very, very safe voting. And I think they did. And they were so patient. I bumped into one of our registrars today, and I did talk to several people in line, and everybody was really understanding that in the beginning that there were lines. I think there was this almost like chomping at the bit to get to the polls to make your voice heard. And so that morning rush, and it did drop down a lot later in the day. And we would expect that with 55% returns and mail-in voting. So that was a big deal. So I'm very proud of our state that, you know, we are behind in our voting, accommodating voting and early. We don't do early voting, which most states do. We do have only excuse absentee voting, which only a few states do. So we have this very restrictive voting rules in the state. And I'm very proud that we responded in a way that made sense for us. And I hope that there are lasting changes that are made to accommodate more people voting in a very accessible way.
Well, it seemed like it certainly increased the enfranchisement of the public. I mean, I think people who couldn't get there because of their work schedule were able to vote by absentee ballot, and you know, people who I think you've talked about this before. You know, even like doctors or nurses, people who work 12-hour shifts, where they're just not able to get to the polling places, and especially during a pandemic, you have those people are wearing scrubs and things that you probably don't want to be wearing into a polling place. So even if you were to be able to rush there right after work, you don't want them around other people.
Well, I shared a story. I have a niece that just actually is a nurse, and she's in a pulmonary floor and is in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And she was working 12-hour shifts, and she's young. She's 24, and she doesn't have a lot of flexibility in what she does, and she has to finish up, and you can't leave early. And she was really concerned that she would not be able to vote because, and this was before there were some changes to the voting rules there to accommodate as well. But it was really a nerve-wracking time to think, you know, I'm not going to be, this was in the primary actually, she had some concerns. So, you know, that's real. You walk in from a COVID floor with scrubs on into a voting place. Sense, right? So yeah, we've got to make sure that this is a more common sense, safe way. And we want people to vote. We don't want to, it's a democracy. You know, we're a modified democracy with electoral college, but it's really important that people make their voices heard. And I do know how important it was for people. My own son, I saw him leaving the polls, and he said when he left, he screamed. Like he just was like, yeah, I did it. You know, he really felt very empowered to make his voice heard.
So
my son was excited to vote too.
Yeah.
He's wearing his sticker. I have my sticker on too.
Lots of kids. We're going to be talking with Senator Blumenthal here a little bit later. But one of the things he brought up was seeing the kids going with the parents and the kids being able to experience the importance and the excitement of at least seeing the voting process and being a part of it. So, Mayor Cantor, let me switch gears with you. We've already called one race. We actually can call a second race, and that's Tammy Rush Exum. Tammy is going to win Connecticut 19th District Representative. If Jillian Gilchrist is able to hold, we're going to have not only 3 West Hartford residents in the 18th, 19th, and 20th districts, but 3 people who have been very politically active, who you've got tremendous relationships. How does this benefit the town? How does this benefit the state, having that kind of relationship between our mayor and 3 elected representatives in state government?
It's so helpful to the residents of West Hartford, and it's so helpful to all of, actually, I think it's helpful to our administration to have those low walls and easy access. This is a great group of people. First, I want to congratulate Kate, first announced a winner. Congratulations, Kate, and congratulations to Tammy. These are hardworking, bright, dedicated women, and I know I really am confident that Jillian will also cross the line soon. And we have 3 smart, capable, and really motivated, hardworking women, and I'm so proud to have them as my colleagues and my friends. And I know that we are going to work very closely together and make sure that concerns of West Hartford residents are heard. And Derek, I work so closely with Derek as well. He's a phenomenal friend, colleague, and partner. So we're really lucky in West Hartford to have that access and that support.
We have Derek in the green room. We actually have one of John Larson's representatives also in the green room. And we've got Millie on air here. So we've got Millie saying no. So Mayor Cantor, thank you so much, both for your time and for everything that you do for the community. We're excited heading forward with some new blood in the state level, and I think it's going to be great.
Thank you. But thank you for doing this and connecting with the public. This is really important. I appreciate the great job that you do.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
And sorry about my dog who decided she had to make a cameo.
I will talk to you both soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ronnie. Well, we're rolling, and TV's gotten their issues resolved, so we're in good shape there. And we only have 2 people in the green room right now. So, Derek, I'm going to ask you to hang on. Right now, we're going to go live with Mary Utrauskas. Mary, you were on with us last week, but you didn't get to talk much. So now it's your turn. We're going to make you talk. And I'm judging from your shirt, you're working for John Larson, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm his communications
And you probably
director.
couldn't wear that to go vote today, could you?
I actually voted early, so yeah.
So tell us what's going on at Camp Larson. What's happening with the team now?
Well, as you guys know, polls just closed in Connecticut, so we're pretty confident, but stuff's just trickling in right now, so we don't have anything concrete yet. But yeah, we're pretty confident and excited.
We had Essie LeBreau on a few minutes ago, who's the town clerk, and he walked us through the process. So obviously some votes cannot be counted till tomorrow, and that's because they had to keep the books accurate so that people couldn't vote twice. So we're probably not going to hear definitive numbers maybe until late tomorrow or even possibly Thursday. How confident are you? I know there's not a lot of polling at this level, but how confident are you? How's the congressman feeling?
Oh, he's feeling really good, and yeah, we're excited and we're pretty confident that he will be going back to Washington.
Terrific. And he's going to be doing a speech that's going to be available for people to watch. Is that going to be broadcast?
That's through the state party, and then we're also potentially doing a Facebook Live depending on when the race is called later today. And he's actually doing another interview right now, so that's why. Yeah.
That's the name of it. It's a scramble for guests on election night. So that's the way. And we had him last week. We did not want to ask for his time this week because we had him a week ago. So Ronnie, any questions for Mary before we move on to our next guest?
You know what? No, I got a little distracted because you may have heard the barking in the background.
Ted mad about something again, Ronnie? Or,
No, my husband worked all day since 5:30 this morning. Was at election day registration, so he just got home, and that's why the dog is barking her head off. But
he's excited.
does Congressman Larson have any, feelings about what he's looking to accomplish in the next session, assuming he is heading back to Washington? I know Social Security is one of his big hot button issues.
Yeah, he's chairman of the Social Security subcommittee. So that's definitely a top priority for him. And then also, unifying the country and addressing this pandemic and having national leadership. He's got a couple of proposals to utilize parts of the military to nationalize the production of supplies and the distribution of them too, using the Defense Logistics Agency. So I think those are top priority. Those are probably the two top priorities for him right now, addressing the pandemic and then Social Security.
And you see me turning my head because I'm trying to be given numbers here. So right now it looks like nationally, Trump 42 electoral votes and Biden 20, but Indiana and Kentucky were two states to go early, and they were Trump territory. So that's where we stand in terms of the Electoral College count at this moment. So Mary, thank you very, very much. Best of luck to you and the whole team. And please send our regards to the congressman.
And somebody named Patty just said hello to you.
Oh, hi, Patty. Hi, Kevin. All right, thank you.
There you go. You got followers and fans. So, Mary, we're gonna jump over to Derek Slap. Mary, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you.
All right, so we're rolling well, and we're gonna mute Jillian there because we got Jillian in the green room. So we are rolling here, and we got a countdown going on. Derek Slap, how are you? Wait.
Oh,
Derek,
he's muted.
Nope, he's not muted. Derek, you there? All right, we're having a mic issue. All right, Derek, we're going to ask you to reconnect. We're going to jump to Jillian. Is that okay if you can hear us? Hopefully he can hear us. So he's going to reconnect here. So we'll bring Jillian up. That happens occasionally with these computers. Occasionally you got to do a reboot or something. Jill, how are you? Oh, there we go. Now that was me. Jill, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing really well. Hey, you got balloons behind you. Are you celebrating something?
Election day.
So now you were not unopposed this time. So you had Rick Bush running against you. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. Yes, I do.
There we go.
We'll see.
And how are you? Are you feeling confident? How do you feel? When do you think you're going to hear the results?
I'm hoping to hear the results within the hour, but we never know because so many people voted early, which is tremendous. So it isn't over till it's over. Feel like I worked hard, but we'll see what the voters decided.
Let's talk about early voting, Jillian. There's been a strong message. In fact, Mayor Cantor just reiterated it from you, from Derek, and really from Governor Lamont, really anybody at this point, that we need to find a way to expand and continue, even in the post-COVID era, this expanded voting options. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Connecticut voters have been pushing this for a while, and I think it is long overdue in the state of Connecticut. Unfortunately, it becomes a partisan issue. And so time and again, our Republican colleagues in the House and Senate have pushed back on us trying to make voting in Connecticut more accessible. And so there are many of us in the Democratic Party who are looking forward to working on both no excuse absentee ballots and also early voting.
Is there any way to do that without a constitutional amendment?
No. So we did pass in the 2019 legislative session a bill that would allow for early voting, but we now need to pass that in another legislature. So it's two consecutive legislatures because we didn't get the supermajority vote. We'd also now, if we can go in and get a supermajority to pass the no excuse absentee, then it could go directly on the ballot the next time. But because it is written into Connecticut's constitution, it has to be put up on the ballot for the voters to decide if they want to change the constitution to allow for early voting and no excuse absentee ballots.
What do you think? Is it going to pass?
I think the momentum is there. And so, yes,
bipartisan?
I hope so. I think a lot more people are paying attention. And now that so many people got to experience that freedom and that accessibility to vote early, I think there's going to be a lot more push to do it. And so my hope is that it is bipartisan.
Ronnie, you had a question?
Yeah, I just was going to say, what was the feeling? Did people feel like it went well this year? I feel like, everybody was pretty happy with the ability to either go out and vote. And gosh, I can't even imagine what it would have been like at the polls had we not had the early voting, because there were still some really, really long lines this morning, in the area here as well as throughout the state. But that was with a lot of people voting ahead of time.
I think people feel like it went really well, but I can't help but think how much better it can go if we have even more time to plan. I think that there was just unbelievable effort put in on the part of the Secretary of State's office and on the part of municipalities and I'll give West Hartford credit, our registrars and our town clerk, to ensure that it went smoothly. But in looking at the systems they have in place in other states who've been doing this for a while, I think if we are able to pass this in the state of Connecticut, we'll even see it be more streamlined.
Jillian, looking forward, assuming you do win re-election, I don't want to assume anything, but just we've got you on. So for the sake of this discussion, what are some of your big, you've made an impact. You've had a lot of impact on a lot of legislation over the last I'm losing track of time, 3.5 years, 4 years. I can't remember. Is it one term or two? I'm totally forgetting.
Just one term.
One term. Oh my gosh. So, but you've made an impact, and what are some of your goals now as we head into that second term? What are some of the things on your to-do list?
Well, my hope is to remain on the Appropriations Committee, and I think the state budget is going to be a major priority considering the financial difficulties that we're experiencing as a result of COVID. So I look forward to having important conversations as a part of that committee. I'm hoping to be on the Public Health Committee, and I would like to see us pass the vaccination bill and do a host of other public health related bills to give people greater access to healthcare, reproductive healthcare, and a passion of mine has been addressing and preventing sexual violence. And so I have every intention of working on those issues. I'll continue to reach out and be a voice for the residents of West Hartford. And so a joy I experience in this role is having people reach out to me and getting to work with them on policies that they're passionate about. So I have every intention of continuing to do that.
So talk about vaccination. That's been a big issue locally here in West Hartford, because we have one of our earlier guests tonight, Kevin Sullivan. He's been a strong advocate of vaccination legislation. Talk to us a little bit about that issue, because I don't think people know the details on that.
So what this would require is that any child going to a public school in the state of Connecticut would have to have certain vaccinations, and I believe it's 8. So there's some misinformation out there on which vaccinations. They'd have to have these vaccinations in order to attend public school unless they had a medical exemption. Currently in the state of Connecticut, folks can use a religious exemption, and what we've seen is that it's being used for other purposes. And so the legislation that we would pass would say, no reason other than a medical exemption. And so what I say to folks who are fearful or who argue that their child has been medically impacted, well, then they need to look at that medical exemption piece.
I agree. I know I'm not in the legislature here, but I agree. And I think it's such an important issue. I think about COVID-19 and how sadly a lot of these issues have become politically divisive, and they shouldn't be. I liked Kamala's answer at the vice presidential debate, when she was asked, would she have the confidence to take a vaccine? And she said, yes, if the scientists said it's okay, I'd be willing to be first in line. And I think that's the kind of messaging, both Republican and Democrat, that needs to be conveyed. And I don't think it's been conveyed. So Jillian, I salute you for your work on that. I think that's really important. I think there's so much wrong and frankly misguided information on that issue. So I salute you for carrying the flag, and please continue to do so.
Thank you. And I think, if anything could have showed us how important it is, it's COVID-19 and this pandemic. I think we go through our lives not thinking about the measles or the mumps or nowadays chicken pox, because have vaccinations, but to be experiencing this and going through it in real time, you realize what an impact it would have on our society if we weren't taking those vaccinations.
Right, right. And I'll give a plug kind of on a related subject. Ronnie, you've been carrying the flag on this one. Get your flu shot.
That's right.
I just, people need to, I got mine, Ronnie got yours. And it's just something that, you know, there are people who are getting double whammy. They're getting the flu and they're getting COVID. And I certainly wouldn't want to be in that situation. That sounds absolutely awful. So, Representative Gilchrist, thank you so much. We wish you luck this evening. We're looking forward to the results coming in, and we'll look forward to having you on in the future. We can talk more about the issues.
My pleasure.
Before you sign off, if you have a statement to make after the results come in, could you please email that to me? Because I'll be doing a write-up of election results later on tonight.
You've got it. Thank you so much.
Second
By the
thing,
way,
I like the pearls.
I was just going to say that. I noticed the RBG pearls. I'm very impressed. I see the little homage to RBG. So well done.
You know, one of the, we got to find silver linings, right? And so one of the silver linings is that I get to spend this election night with my children in our home. And we've been waiting 4 years, for this election. So, fingers crossed.
Representative Gilchrist, thank you so much. And we hope to see you soon.
Thanks for joining us.
Have a great night.
Take care. All right, we're going to go take two with Derek, and if we can't get the technical issue worked out with him, we're going to go ahead and we'll show the interview with Senator Blumenthal. But hopefully, we're going to have. I think I hear him, which is a good sign. Hopefully, he can hear us.
I can hear you. Yes.
There we go.
All right.
Senator of the 5th District, you are up for election. Do we have your results yet?
No, they're trickling in. So, there's 9 voting districts in West Hartford, and then I have some other towns as well. So far, the results mine are, I have them from, let's just say about half of the, don't you love this? This is in real time, right? This is
absolutely. I'm writing this down.
I got a slide ready to go, Derek. You want to?
So I have them. I'm tracking very close to basically the same as Congressman Larson in each of the districts. So I'm waiting to get my opponent's results, but so it's different, right? Everything's different this year, as you know, the process. So anyway, but so far so good, and I should be getting Farmington's and Burlington's in any minute. We have a call with Jillian and Kate and Tammy, and I have a call with a lot of the Democratic volunteers at 9:30, and we're hoping to have the results by then. All of them by then.
All right. Well, I'll start with the same question for you that I started with Jillian. What are some of your goals, assuming you are reelected? It's going to be your second term. I'll get this correct for you. I got it wrong for Jillian. I lose track of time. But what are some of your objectives moving forward, Derek?
Yeah, in first full term, but you're right. Really, second term. I think there's the first goal really has to be a continuation of what the task has been here since the pandemic. And we're not out of the woods yet. As you know, the numbers are getting worse right now. And that's just to deliver excellent customer service and constituent service. So there are so many people that need help with unemployment benefits or need help with their small business. There's teachers that need support with education. I mean, you name it. And that is not partisan work. It's really just about rolling up your sleeves and helping folks, and they need it when by the time they get to us in the legislature, they've also oftentimes been very frustrated with certain parts of the bureaucracy, and so they're kind of close to the end of their their end of the wick, so to speak, and so that's been the job for the most part since the pandemic hit, and I think one of the things that's incumbent upon us is not doing what we've seen the president do and across the country, which is really only represent your supporters. I don't care who you voted for, and I don't care what party you are a member of. If you need unemployment assistance, and you're short on food or you name it, that's a priority. So that's a big part of the job. I do have some policy issues I'll be working on, of course. I'm chair of the Aging Committee and an age discrimination bill, which had worked on a lot last year and was ready to get it passed that'll be one of the top priorities: housing, education funding, and then COVID as well. And we got a budget that we got to reconcile.
Talk
Derek,
about- oh, sorry, Ronnie, you go
sorry.
ahead.
I was going to say, Derek, how do you see the next legislative session working? You know, assuming that we're still dealing with COVID, are you going to be able to be in session altogether in Hartford, or is some of it going to have to be done virtually, or will you have to, you know, maybe have 10 people in the room and everybody else in their offices?
Right. We haven't, we're beginning to have those conversations. It's a great question, Ronnie, because it is the people's building and it's the people's business. And so, it has to be transparent. The process does. And people have to have a voice. They have to have an opportunity to have their opinion heard. So, closing the building, while it might make sense for public safety, is problematic, right? So we have to figure out a way. I think, you alluded to virtual public hearings. I imagine that, we're not going to have, starting in February, hundreds of people packed into a room for a public hearing, right? I don't see that happening, but we have to ensure that people have an opportunity to have their voice heard. So I don't have a lot of the answers yet. I've heard that perhaps, it'd be by appointment only, that kind of thing, virtual public hearing. But, it's going to be incumbent on us in the legislature, too, to figure out how to have virtual events and how to really make sure that we're listening.
Is there an appetite on the Senate side, bipartisan appetite, to change voting laws? We just talked about this with Jillian. Do you think we're going to be able to get that on the ballot going forward?
Well, we will be able to get it on the ballot. I'm very confident of that. I wish it was bipartisan. It used to be that expanding access to voting was a bipartisan issue, but we could not get one Republican member of the legislature to vote for this early voting initiative, not one. And there's 42 states in the country that have some form of early voting. And so that said, right, many Republican states. This is oddly a partisan issue in Connecticut, but across the country, it is not necessarily as partisan. So, we passed it the last year. We did not have enough votes because we couldn't get any Republican votes to pass it by a supermajority, which means that now we have to pass it in another successive legislature, which we will do next year, by a simple majority. When that happens, then it will go to a referendum, and the people of Connecticut will have a chance to decide whether we are authorized to change the Constitution and allow for early voting. So it's because of the lack of bipartisanship, it's going to cost voters in Connecticut a few years and a couple cycles. And that's unfortunate, but it is inevitable, I think, that we're going to have it.
Seems to have worked well this go around. The feedback we're getting locally and a little bit of statewide from the mayor seems like it's working. Ronnie, you have a question. I can see it in your eyes.
No, you sent me some voter results, and I'm looking at them on my phone and trying to figure out what they mean.
You know what? They're from the 9th, and I got about 10 more, and I to try to interpret them on air, I think would be risky.
Okay. Then that's what that is.
Yeah, and it's
it
just
looks like a receipt from CVS,
which is I don't know, 9th is Hall High School, I think. So they're trying to get me updates as they can, but it's hard to read while we're on air.
This is for political junkies, and
yes, exactly.
This is just heaven, and it's nerve-wracking. I just got a text a second ago that my dear friend and former campaign manager Eleni just won in Avon. And for those of you who know who Eleni, it's Avon and Canton. She's been running essentially for 4 years. She lost by 87 votes 2 years ago.
Yep.
A terrific candidate, and she's going to be a real great addition in the legislature. And it may be tough to try to draw lessons or to extrapolate from Eleni's district, because Eleni has been working so hard for so long. But it is interesting, if you're trying to read the tea leaves in Connecticut, that Avon and Canton will now have a Democratic state representative. So, that suggests, right, that we could have very big gains in the legislature for Democrats this cycle.
When we wrap up with you, Derek, we're going to go to the interview with Senator Blumenthal, and we talk a lot about that on a national level. So if you stay tuned, you'll be hearing more about that and looking at early results coming nationally. It does look like there might be a little bit. The numbers are early, premature. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it does look like even in states that Trump won handily in 16, there's a 2 or 3% move toward the Democratic candidate Biden, and that could indicate, trickle down effect.
Yep.
Could indicate have a lot of ramifications. Again, very, very early, and not seeing the numbers now while we're on air, so we'll get back to the numbers at 10 o'clock. So,
Sure.
Ronnie, any more questions for Derek?
No, other than, and I've said this to anybody who is a candidate, when you have your results, if you could please email me or text me a statement. I'm going to be writing up an article as soon as we're off the air here.
Yes, absolutely. You're on the list, Ronnie, as always. And thank you both for all that you do for our community. You're such an important part, and I don't want to sound like I'm pandering, but I mean, I'm a former journalist, and as you know, and I understand the role that journalism, public journalism plays, especially when, the traditional media outlets, are cutting staff, et cetera. We need you guys more than ever. So thank you.
Hyperlocal, way to go. So thank you, Derek.
Thank you for those comments, and thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Have a great evening. Stay safe.
Derek Slapp, thank you very, very much.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Ronnie, so we're rolling. We do have a race we can call, so I'm going to go ahead and make this call. This is Tammy Exum. We're calling the winner of the 19th District, Tammy Rush Exum. We are expecting her on. She is having to dial in from out of the area and using, don't believe she's got Wi-Fi. So we are hoping to get on. Earlier today, we were able to get a few minutes with Senator Richard Blumenthal, and we're going to go ahead and show you that right now. Got to get this queued up here. Let's see if I can do this right so I don't have a blue screen this time. There we go.
All right.
Here we go. Here's the interview that happened a couple of hours ago with Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Senator Richard Blumenthal
from the great state of Connecticut, two-term senator. Senator, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great here in New Britain. We're just saying hi to voters and great enthusiasm and energy, and I'm very excited.
Well, sir, I heard about your schedule today, and I have to tell you, I think you certainly have a lot more energy than I do. You have been everywhere today, so I'm very impressed to hear that.
Well, thank you. I love Election Day, especially when I'm not on the ballot. A lot less stressful, but I will be in 2 years, so I'm kind of staying in practice, staying in shape.
So is this an announcement already that you're planning to run again in 2 years?
Well, I'm planning an announcement. Put it that way.
There we go. There
Right.
we go.
I'm hoping, I'm focused really on today and this election because there's never been a more important election in our history, probably recent history at least, and certainly not in my lifetime. It is so consequential. And I think voters sense it, they know it, they are coming out in unprecedented numbers.
We're going to talk about that. I just want to remind the viewers, this is being taped a couple of hours before broadcast. So the polls, when we tape this, we're not closed in Connecticut. It's going to air after the polls close. But Senator, let's talk a little bit about turnout. And I actually want to talk about Texas because I'm just amazed at what happened down there. They had 2 million new registered voters, mostly 18 to 24 years old. They've had more people vote before by mail or absentee prior to election day than they had in the entirety of their 2016 election. What do you have a feel for Texas? Are you confident on Texas? Have you looked into that at all?
I think a number of states are going to be very close. Texas may well be one of them, but you're absolutely right that the turnout there has been phenomenal. The absentee and early voting turnout has been equal to the whole 2016 turnout, not counting the people who are voting in person today. And we're seeing the same all around the country. I'm talking to my colleagues, other senators in states that will be key battlegrounds like Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, Arizona, Pennsylvania. They're seeing the same kind of excitement and energy expressed and reflected in the number of people coming to vote. People really want to vote in this election.
And what does that make you? So go ahead, John.
Ronnie.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Ronnie, you go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you think that bodes for, for your party when the voter turnout is that strong?
Great
in this
question,
kind of an election year?
I think it bodes well because I think it reflects the sense of hope and the determination and desire for change that will help make Joe Biden the next president. Of course, as a Democrat, I also hope that we will take back the United States Senate. I think it bodes well for that kind of victory too in Arizona, Colorado, North Carolina, where we're looking very good. And then in Maine, Montana, and Iowa, where our chances are good.
Well, you hit on my question. I had Maine and Colorado written down to ask you about. 53 GOP seats right now. The Democratic Party needs to get to 50. Are you an odds maker? Are you willing to lay odds? Do you have a feel? Do you think 50-50? Do you think you've got a better shot at taking back the Senate?
I would say a bit better than 50-50, but I never predict and I never take anything for granted. As you may have heard me say before, I always run like an underdog. I run like I'm 10 points behind in every election, no matter what the polls say. And I think that's the attitude of our candidates in those states. I think we have a very, very good chance, but it will depend on whether people want that kind of change in the United States Senate. Better health care, for example, guaranteed protection for people with pre-existing conditions, and folks to stay on their parents' policies until the age of 26, and lower prescription drug costs. Health care in the midst of a pandemic is vitally important. And we know Donald Trump wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act. He failed in the Congress, so now he's trying to strike it down in the courts. I think that's really one of the central issues in this campaign, and all around the country, it has resonated powerfully.
And what are you seeing? I alluded to before how you've really been all over the state today and to a lot of polling areas. What are you seeing locally here within Connecticut? Talk to us about your experience today.
Well, lots of folks really determined to vote, and a lot of feeling that they want change at the national level, certainly, but also a commitment that they want health care to be guaranteed. They want to protect against gun violence. I've talked to a number of voters who are focused on integrity in government. They want to end corruption and stop the influence that the special interests have, particularly through dark money, and really restore our democracy and sense of civility. And I think maybe most important what I'm hearing is we need to bring the country together. It's time for healing and ending the division and discord that really has torn us apart. And all of us remember a time when we could disagree, but do it agreeably without threatening each other and calling each other names. And we can have genuine disagreements, but also come together as a nation.
I started paying attention to this stuff 1972 when McGovern ran against Nixon. And, you've got a little more history, and we're going to be talking with our former Lieutenant Governor, Kevin Sullivan, at the top of the show. And, getting his perspective on the 68 election. But certainly in my lifetime, in my memorable lifetime, I've never seen this type of division. And I really hope we can begin the healing tomorrow, because you hit it on the head, Senator. We need it. We really need it. Ronnie, any parting shots before we?
No, unless there's any other, stories you have to share, anything surprising that you heard today that you didn't expect to hear.
What was most heartening to me, Ronnie, is the number of voters who brought their children. They wanted their children to remember this very consequential historic vote. And again, the feeling that we can be better as a nation on so many issues, whether it's healthcare or immigration. We're a nation of immigrants. And criminal justice, trying to end police brutality, but also support our police and first responders and all of the frontline workers in this pandemic. And so far as Washington is concerned, achieve another pandemic relief bill, because certainly our small businesses are struggling. You well know in West Hartford how impactful the pandemic has been. It's a health crisis. It's also an economic crisis. and we need another stimulus relief package from the Congress. And I'm eager to go back and work on it. I'm sorry we couldn't get it done before the election, but we have an obligation to do better. That's part of what I heard today, that we need to do better as a nation and come together, not only with the healing, but also with action to deal with the healthcare crisis and with our economy.
Do you think that can be done before the before inauguration?
I certainly hope it can be, because every day, every week, every month that passes means that families are continuing to struggle to put food on the table, pay their rent and mortgages, to buy prescription drugs. And also businesses are going through this gap. It was a gap. It's now a kind of chasm where restaurants, events industry, many of our small retailers are really so deeply impacted by the absence of consumers and the feeling of insecurity. And we need to face this next wave of the pandemic, which may be upon us, every bit as serious as what we've seen before.
Yeah, and with our rollback, that's going to create an extra burden to a lot of those businesses, particularly restaurants, like
Absolutely.
the many that we have here in West Hartford.
Absolutely right.
I think we have had, and I was just finishing up my Excel spreadsheet before we started, but something like 35,000 voters already in West Hartford. Let's see if I can. I was just finishing the formula. I needed to get my son to help me, but almost
Senator,
34,000 voters already, and that was as of 4 p.m. in West Hartford.
we've got
So that's an amazing number.
42,000 registered, right, Ronnie?
Mhm. Yep.
So-
So that's the combination of absentee ballots and people voting in person today. So that's really just an incredible number. I haven't put in the formula to figure out what percentage that is, but it's pretty high.
That is amazing. Well, congratulations to West Hartford. That's a wonderful example for our state and our nation. We really want people to participate, to be engaged. As the old saying goes, democracy is not a spectator sport.
Senator Richard Blumenthal, the senior senator from the state of Connecticut, thank you so much for your time.
Great to be with
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Senator.
Take care.
Welcome to hour 2 of our special election night coverage, weha.com. We are rolling. We've had plenty of guests so far and many more to come. Ronnie, how are you?
Well, you kind of scared me with that music, John, but otherwise I'm doing just fine.
Well, you know, we gotta make sure people are paying attention. So anyway, so we are rolling. We got a couple of people in the green room right now. We've got Tammy's technical issues worked out. So we're going to bring Tammy Exum up. Oh, and we have a problem here. We have something up here that's not supposed to be here. Let's try this again here. There we go. And boom, boom. See, it's a little bit of a production challenge here sometimes. See, I'm producing as well as trying to host this thing with you, and it can get a little crazy sometimes. I don't know why I'm having trouble. I can't make that go away. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Tammy, how are you? Oh, we don't hear.
Uh-oh, we can't hear you, Tammy.
Nope,
Oh,
I can unmute. There we go. Nope.
Oh, wait, here she goes.
Yep, we're good. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, I love all this virtual stuff.
It's going pretty smoothly. If I think we got a budget for a producer 4 years from now when we do the next presidential election, because trying to do theme music and then it rolls too far and I try to exit and I exit the wrong thing. I hope I didn't throw the wrong thing out of the green room there. But anyway, so Tammy, you're traveling. You had some stuff going on, so you're not in town to celebrate, but you are with family. And you are celebrating. We did declare you your race victorious a little while ago. So how do you feel, and how does the family feel, and what's going on?
Well, I tell you, it's surreal to think how fast things have gone. I was thinking back on the special election and talking to Ronnie when it was over. We kind of found a place over in the Butterfly, and it was such a contrast night, the room was packed. There were, you could never have told us, forecasted forward, that we would have an election night where we weren't together. And I'm so grateful that I had that experience, because at that time I was really one of the only games in the state. So that there were so many, I had so much help, and it was a kind of quick and furious time. And it was in a wonderful night, that I really was able to celebrate and feel all of that. I miss being with everyone this year and being together. But it was a quick and unbelievable special, I guess, elections short session for me. Nothing was typical about it, but I'm grateful to have this opportunity, and I want a whole full, I want the full 2 years, and hopefully have an opportunity to really have a chance to be immersed in some of the work and deal with some of the issues that will be coming forward. My family is hanging in. We're all over. As you said, I'm dealing with the family emergency, so I'm not in state. 2 of my sons are still there, so we're celebrating from afar. But my middle son, forgot about the time change, so he called me really early this morning, saying he was in line voting. He said, I stood in line for an hour at Sedgwick, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. That speaks to what's happening here. So that's a wonderful thing.
We had a lot of big lines early. So Tammy, we asked the other 2 representatives who we've already had on. We're going to ask you what are some of the initiatives that are on your mind here going forward over the next 2 years.
Well, there are a lot of things that I'm interested in. This election cycle has really made me grateful that I'm on the Government Administration and Elections Committee, because we work a lot on elections. And as we are looking at the way elections are rolling out now, I would like to continue work around early voting, around expanding the vote, having an expanded absentee ballot system. So really working on some of the elections piece. But I think the first thing we need to continue to focus on has to do with how we get through what we're dealing with now, which is the coronavirus and this pandemic, and ways of addressing it. And I sure hope tonight we see a change in this country that will allow the federal and state governments to work very cohesively, so that we can start to work through this pandemic and support our, support the related things around healthcare, around education, in order for our economy to really get back to work. And so all the pieces that tie into that are going to be a priority. And one thing that I really have a lot of passion around as well, which also was I received through some constituency email, is around disabilities, and how people with disabilities had difficulty voting. How people with disabilities had so much more of a difficult time when the children are learning from home. Sometimes it really doesn't work for them. So this community that I've always had a lot of passion around, I want to continue to really do some work to support disabilities issues as well. So quite a few things I really want to do, but I look forward to having that opportunity to get back in there and get to work.
Ronnie, any questions for Tammy before we move on to the next guest?
No, except for what I will ask you to do, just like I asked all of the other candidates who are running, is if you could send me a statement about your your official victory statement. I don't have to ask you to wait to do that, because we know that you've won. So if you could either email that to me or text that to me, I'd love to include it in a story later on.
Sure. And one other thing I just want to say, I must say, I am so excited to be serving alongside Jillian and Kate, and for 3 women to be representing West Hartford is so exciting and amazing, and that the trust was put into us to do that. But for us to have this opportunity, I am really, really excited. So and Derek, he is such a wonderful colleague, and I really welcome this opportunity. So I'm just filled with gratitude on this election day. So thank you for having me on.
Representative Tammy Exum, thank you so much for coming
Thanks
on.
so much, Tammy. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. I do too. Thank you.
Bye. All right, Ronnie, we've got people lining up in the green room here.
Oh boy, okay.
Next is town councilor and candidate for the 1st Congressional District, Mary Fay. Mary, how are you? The second time of the week we got to see you. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Fantastic.
So we
Mary?
are not one of the disadvantages of doing this broadcast. We're getting a couple of updates on our phones, but do you have any news on your end?
Well,
Anything?
I think what I've learned so far is we had really good feedback coming out of the exit polls. A lot of people voted for me, who are Democrats, independents, unaffiliates. I have no idea what the real score is right now.
Okay.
I think I'm really proud of my campaign. We did fantastic. We had a really good message that resonated with people. Time for a change. Time for a change.
Are you? I have to ask you. Are you at Rockledge? It looks like you're at Rockledge.
Yes, I am.
As I said, I recognize that background. So.
Yeah.
So Mary, it's interesting because you hold office currently, so you're able to work on your initials locally. Talk about what are some of your goals if you do win the election. What are your goals? I know we talked a little bit about this week, but we've got a totally different and much larger audience today. Tell us about what you want to do.
Yeah, of course. So for one, I mean, I hope people notice that my colors were purple for a reason. And we got to get the stalemate. We got to remove the stalemate. We got to get the stimulus to people that really need it. We can't fill it with things that don't matter. We got to be targeted. And I'll work with anybody. If Joe Biden wins, of course I'll work with him. If we have a minority, in the Senate, of course I'll work with them. We have to work together to get things done. And the way things are structured now is just ridiculous. So my priorities are simple. Let's go after the economy. Let's grow it. Let's keep taxes where they need to be to stimulate growth and jobs. Jobs are dying, especially in our district. Pratt Whitney's out, a lot of companies, GE, my former employer. So that's number one. Number two, let's get education where it needs to be. Let's help these underperforming schools and give every kid a chance. It's important. The Democrats say that it hasn't happened. We've fallen further and further and further behind. And number three, we need public safety. We have to. I've noticed that there were policemen at the polls for the first time, and people are concerned. They're worried about the results of the presidential election, what's going to happen. We cannot tolerate rioting and looting. That's not a solution to solving our problems. So back the blue, get rid of the rogues, and keep things moving. But the biggest thing is collaboration and, working together. Honestly, I know that sounds idealistic, but what we're doing now is not working. The do nothing Congress is a fact. And who wants that? I don't want to be in a job where I'm going to do nothing. I'd rather work across the aisle and get something done. I've proven that in the council. I've proven that in my life. I've proven that in business. We have to work together or else nothing happens.
Well, I agree. And we definitely, from a healing perspective, I think your words would be well listened to as well. Ronnie, any last questions for Mary before we move on to our next?
Other than to just say, once the results are tabulated tonight and the decisions are made, if you could send me a statement, that would be great, because I will be writing a story up later on tonight. And it's a little bit different covering election night this way. Normally I would be, over where you are right now, speaking with you in public and
Hey,
speaking.
John, if she's asking a question, you're going to have to translate because I don't hear anything.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me okay, Mary?
I can hear you, sure.
Okay.
But
Okay.
You can't hear me? Am I muted?
Ronnie, I hear you. No, you're fine. It's just a glitch. So, Mary, I'm going to translate, and then we got to go on to the next guest here. So, basically, at the end of the night, when you're ready to issue a statement, win, lose, or draw, would you just communicate that with Ronnie so she can put it in the article?
of course.
Okay, fantastic. Mary, good luck. It's always great to talk to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, John. It was a pleasure to be with you. I really enjoyed it.
You too, Mary. Thank you.
Thank
All right, we are rolling. So let's hope we don't have that same issue. We've got John Bailey. John Bailey is the chair of the West Hartford Democratic Party. Ronnie, I'm going to ask you to talk to him and just make sure he can hear you.
John, can you hear me?
I can, Ronnie.
Good.
Yes, loud
Okay,
and clear.
excellent.
All right, so we had a little glitch there, but fortunately it's worked out. John Bailey, how are you?
Good, John. There we go. First of all, thank you for inviting me on your show tonight. Things are good. I think we're getting our results in West Hartford. Big numbers. I think everyone might have heard that our rate of voters was up in the 82, 84 range, I believe. So
Actually, as of 6 p.m., we were at 84.3%. So And that was before the rest of the votes were cast in person. And there were, what did Essie say, about 600 or 700 more absentee ballots that weren't included in there. Or maybe she said it was 60, but in any case, there were more absentee ballots that needed to be included.
Well, I hope we do one step better than Stanford. I mean, Stanford and West Hartford have been jockeying for position for the most, the highest vote.
And they've got a lot more population than we do, don't they?
True,
So-
very true. I mean, yes.
I think that's
but
just something about Stanford. I think we won that war, John.
that's yes, John. I would have to agree.
So any,
Well, Stanford's my initial hometown. So,
Oh,
but I'm all for West Hartford now.
yeah, West Hartford's the best Hartford, as I like to say.
so John, do you have any results, any news, any numbers at all coming through yet, or are we still kind of in a holding pattern?
We're in a holding pattern, John. We are waiting for those results to come in from the different polling stations. As you know, our chair of the coordinated campaign is collecting those numbers, and we'll be putting those out as soon as possible.
Excellent. What you stand a chance to have 3 members of your committee be state representatives, and that's if Jillian Gilchrist holds, and we've already declared 2 winners in Kate and Tammy. So you have a chance of having 3 DTC members be at state level government plus Derek at Senate level. What does that do for the town? How does that benefit the town?
I think those candidates that come through the process and are grounded in for supporting the town committee, it just shows you that those relationships that are built in the town committee can be translated to great campaign volunteers. And I think that all 4 of our electeds realize that the town committee serves a purpose and can be the workhorse when called upon. So I love it that they came through the ranks, and they're just doing such a great job for West Hartford.
Well, John, we appreciate everything you're doing, and we appreciate you coming on to spend a few minutes with us. So much going on tonight. There's going to be lots of big stories, probably all night long. And I know you want to get back to watching the results, and I know you've got a big call at 9:30. So thank you very, very much for spending some time with us this evening.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ronnie. Really appreciate all the work you guys are doing.
All right. Thank you so much, John, for being our guest.
Have a great evening.
John Bailey, the chair of the Democratic Town Committee. We have our next guest, and that's Joelle Noraki. Joelle is a candidate for the State Senate 5th District, and we're still awaiting numbers, so we don't have any declarations. But Joelle, how are you? It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you. I'm doing well.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Joelle.
Nice to meet you.
So this is you talk a lot about vulnerability, and I like that honesty in a candidate. Talk to us a little bit about some of the things you've learned, and hard knocks, good moments. What are some of the things that you've experienced over the last 6 or 8 months?
Yeah. So actually, my whole journey with this didn't even start until about 4 months ago. I think I would say it might have even been 3. It hasn't been that long. The opportunity kind of came at the last second here for me. So it was a great honor, and I decided to just step into it. And let's see, I guess, obviously, just choosing to commit to the opportunity and really stepping into it has been exciting to see how well it's been received by people in my community. I think what I've loved the most has been just connecting with people and hearing how grateful they are to have someone like me who shares, similar views, to have, someone stepping into the ring and feeling like there's hope. And I think that's a beautiful honor to be providing that for people right now, especially in such a, tumultuous time in our world. So yeah, it's been so great. I love people, and I love connecting with people so much. And it's just been, it's been great meeting people as I've been campaigning. So
how do we how do we heal as a nation? This is a rough one. We had Kevin Sullivan on earlier, former lieutenant governor of the state of Connecticut, former mayor of the town of West Hartford. He's been through the wars. He's been through a lot of elections. He's seen the good ones. He's seen the bad ones, and he called this one probably the most divisive since the Civil War. And he knows his history. How do we heal? How do we come together as a country? How do we heal this rift that's been created?
Yeah, you know, that's a big question. I made a post about this actually yesterday. You know, just reminding everyone that, you know, it comes down to perspective, right? And our perception of who is, you know, doesn't matter what candidate it is, but, you know, we each have these different perspectives of these candidates. And at the end of the day, there is no, you know, we don't know what the truth is. The only truth is in our hearts. And so I truly believe that we as humans, we want peace, we want love, you know, we love each other, and we really want the best possible thing for each one of us. And so, and, you know, one group of people thinks one candidate is going to bring that, and another group of people think another candidate is going to bring that. And at the end of the day, you know, the only truth is our own truth. And so with that, you know, reminding yourself that my neighbor wants peace and love at the end of the day, even though I can't see how they can understand and fathom that, you know, their candidate is going to bring that, but I'm going to respect that. That's their truth. So I think that's what we just have to remember, is that, you know, we don't know what the truth is. We only have the truth that resonates in our hearts, and that's in peace and love. And if we can remember that we are stronger together than divided, you know, that's going to bring us a long way. And I think that's where we kind of have to get back to, is that common denominator of peace and love and connection, and, you know, and just respecting our differences.
How did you, just one more question for me. How did you say you got the call 3 or 4 months ago? What happened? Did somebody call you from one of the parties, or what happened? I know you're running as an independent, but.
Yeah, that's well, it's kind of a big question, like a longer story, but I'll give you the shorter version right now. Basically how I got inspired to just get into this at all, or even consider it, was during February, when the bill HB 5044 was on the table. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it was a bill that was brought to the Health Committee, and they had over 23 hours of testimony in opposition of that bill. And it was one of the largest turnouts ever in Connecticut history for a bill. And I was part of that. And I went to the Capitol, and it was an amazing experience. And it just really opened my eyes to politics. And so anyway, my state rep didn't vote in favor and didn't listen to his constituents. And it really got me angry and inspired to take some action. And so after looking into things, I was like, I don't think I can do this. You know, it really, right now, with everything else on my plate, I wouldn't be able to run. So I had reached out to my friend and inspired him to run. He ran as an independent. And I said, you know, I wouldn't be able to do this unless I kind of, you know, it almost would need to be a given. I said that not thinking that would ever be a real possibility. And then a month or two later, he calls me and he says, Joelle, I just talked to the independent party chairman, and they're actually looking for a person to run for the Senate in our district. If you're interested, give them a call. And so that's how it all happened. And I did. And, you know, they were looking for someone, and they said I would just need to, you know, basically sign a couple papers and my name would be on the ballot. So, you know, you ask and the universe delivers, I guess. So that's how that happened.
Ronnie, I know you probably got your normal closing question. Any more questions before we move on? We got our next couple of guests in the green room.
No, other than that, if you can, once the results are in, if you could send me your statement regarding how this campaign went and how you feel about the results. My email is, if you don't have it, it's editorial, EDITORIAL. Whoops.
She's looking for a pen.
Sorry, I'm ready now. Editorial.
Okay. Editorial at ha.com.
All right. Thank you guys so much for
All right,
having me
well,
on.
thank you for coming on. Good luck.
Thanks so
we
much,
hope-
Joelle.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet
Take
you.
care.
Nice to meet you.
All righty, and we are rolling here. We've got Rick Bush coming on here. So, Rick, how are you? Whoop! Did I have him? Oh, I'm so sorry. There we go. Let's try it again. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? All right, we got a sound
Rick?
issue here. So I'm going to park him back in the. Let's try one more time. Rick, can you hear me? Nope. All right, we're going to take him off, and hopefully he can
It
come
looked
back
like
on.
he pressed a button.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. In the meantime, I'm going to put Rocky on here. We got Rocky Holland. Rocky, we're going to kind of move in and out of you here a little bit. We've got Rick Bush, who's ready to come online. We're also supposed to be getting Mark Merritt. And then the evening's going to wrap with you. And then we've got a short video from the town that talks a little bit about some of the stuff that went on. So, Rocky, how are you?
I'm doing well, John. How are you? Thanks for having me on, by the way.
We got Rick Bush again. Let's try this again here. So, give him the countdown. All right, Rick, can you hear me now?
Yes. Hello.
All right, Rocky, I'm going to take you out because we got.
Hey,
You
Rick.
got my feed.
So, Rocky,
Hi, Rick.
in a minute, okay?
It was
So-
nice seeing you, Rocky.
He's coming
He'll
back.
be back.
We'll have him back in a minute or two. So, Rick, how are you? You're looking very dapper. I think you win best dressed of all of our guests tonight.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And you look warmer than you looked earlier when I saw you outside at Town Hall.
It was cold, that's for sure. I was outside all day today.
So, talk to us about the race. How are you feeling? Have you heard anything or any numbers in yet? We've got nothing, so we don't have any numbers yet. We're waiting like everybody else. You have any news for us?
So I have some numbers. Before the campaign even started, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle, and I knew that for me, getting a certain percentage of the vote was kind of my goal. Obviously, I wanted to win, but for me, if I got over 35% of the vote, I would have been really pleased. And the numbers that have come in so far, all of the live votes, all the people that walked into the polling places and voted, I got 38.23%. So it's pretty good. And in two of the places, the numbers were much higher. So there was 3 polling places in my district, and 2 of them were really, really close, and one of them was kind of skewed out of whack. But it's just been, I'm really proud of the numbers and the result. It was a great experience.
And Rick, it got a little choppy. Did you say you 38.2%? Did you say?
Correct.
Okay. Well, look, congratulations. It's a first effort, and I have a feeling this will not be your last effort. What's going through your mind right now? What are some of the things that made you run?
So I just really couldn't be more pleased with my campaign. I stayed true to my message. I ran a very clean campaign, a positive campaign. I didn't go negative at all, and I think that I'm able to sleep well at night knowing that I stuck to who I am as a person, and really enjoyed the process. I'm certainly not going to go gently into that good night in politics. I think this is the beginning for me. I enjoyed the process. I learned a tremendous amount. I grew as a human being. I think my family was impacted in a positive way. So I feel really positive. I'm proud of the effort that I put forth. I'm proud of all the material that I produced. I wrote quite a bit of material for the internet, and I've made some videos that I'm really proud of. And it's just a great process. It's I'm an American. I mean, and this is the American process. This is what we do. I'm super proud that I'm really the only Republican who ran in West Hartford for any of the House seats. I think I did as well as I could have expected to do.
I think the 18th district is tough. I frankly was surprised not to see somebody run in the 20th as a Republican, because I think the 20th is a little bit more, perhaps a better district. But I think the 18th is tough, and Gillian's a very popular candidate. We do have some breaking news, so I'm going to interrupt you here for a second. It's a pretty significant story. The Democrats have picked up 1 Senate seat so far. Colorado has been called for John Hickenlooper, according to NBC News. So that's the first major pickup. The Democrats are expecting to lose Alabama, so it's a net 0. But Colorado and Maine, everybody's eyes were on the 2 states. Colorado is in the win column for the Democrats. So Rick, what's your wife, what's your family saying to you right now?
They're really proud of me. They know how much work I did and the kind of stress I was under and what I put them through. And they're I think relieved that it's over. My wife was very supportive. My children have been very supportive. We all are out tonight together as a family. It's just been a great process, and they're proud of me. They love me win or lose. So I'm going home to a great spot tonight.
And that's the way it should be. Ronnie, you have any questions for Rick?
Well, and you have a very important role with the town, actually, outside of having run for this position. You're an MDC commissioner, and that's a really valuable role, and a role that I think it's kind of an unsung hero, and something we look forward to really hearing more from you about that. Do you have any goals for what you want to do in that role?
So I have to say, it's an honor to be the commissioner, one of the 3 commissioners from West Hartford to the MDC, and it's a position of responsibility, something that I embrace. I got into politics because of an MDC issue, a broken sewer main in my street, and so it's really for me an honor to be in that position. I fully intend to work very hard to make sure that the integrated plan is implemented fully in West Hartford, that we're participating in DEEP financing. I'm going to work hard to make sure that we get funding from the state to take care of the sewers. Otherwise, the town of West Hartford taxpayers are going to have a very large financial burden on their shoulders. It's a lot of information. I have to tell you, you get in and they just throw you right in. You have to just really do a lot of homework. You got to research a lot, and you got to know what you're talking about. And I think with my construction background and my knowledge of plumbing in general and just construction methodology, that I'll be able to serve very well in this capacity. And I'm looking forward to doing it for the foreseeable future.
Rick, let me ask you an MDC. We got a few minutes here, so let me ask you an MDC question if I can. There was a lot of controversy about 4 or 5 years ago when the MDC did a deal with Niagara Water to provide bottled water for bottling for sale, for profit. And the impression it made is that it was kind of a back office deal. I know some of these can smell bad, but they're not quite as bad as they sound. I also know there's plenty of water. I know enough about water and water supply that there is plenty of water, but the way the deal went down didn't smell right. And I know obviously you were not on the board at the time, but is there a lingering trust issue? Do you run into that with the customers and I don't know if constituents is the right word, but the customers of MDC and the town, the member communities?
Yeah. So I really appreciate this question. And I think there's really been a huge amount of misinformation that's gone out there. MDC sells water by the unit. The more water they sell, the less each unit costs. So if they're making a deal with somebody to buy a lot of units, it really lowers the cost for everybody else. So the misinformation that was out there, that it was some backroom deal, is completely false. It benefited the consumers of water through the MDC. It benefited everybody. The reason why our water bills are going up now is because we're using less water. We have these energy efficient faucets, energy efficient, water efficient toilets, the low flow shower heads. People are just more concerned about saving water. So if we can make deals to sell millions of gallons of water, it actually helps all the customers. So, and really the customers aren't the ones who've been talking to me. It's been more of the counselors in West Hartford and the people who were concerned that there was some sort of deal that wasn't on the up and up. But let me tell you, it was a good deal. It was a good deal for everybody. And any misinformation is just false. So
it was tough. And I'm, as a news source here, I try not to take sides, but I have a lifelong friend who's been in the water industry his entire career. His father was too. And he came out pretty quickly. He doesn't live in the area, had no skin in the game. And he said, look, it may smell bad because the way the deal was done in terms of not being not communicating through the process, but in terms of the actual amount of water available, there's no risk to our supply whatsoever. So it was a tough situation. I know it was a very controversial situation, and it's interesting. And I like the fact that we've got a little bit of new blood on the MDC board now to talk about it, maybe carry the message and help better educate the member towns.
Yeah. And we do have plenty of water. I'll tell you, that's the one thing that I learned. We have one of the most substantial reservoirs in the nation. In fact, almost in the world.
Oh.
The amount of money that was put into this reservoir system back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, where they built huge reservoirs in Barkhamsted and all the dams. And we really have an incredibly robust water supply that will really benefit our area for the foreseeable future through generations. You know, even during this summer when we had a water shortage, where West Hartford had no problem and the MDC member towns had no problem. I think the reservoirs were at 90% capacity even after all that drought this summer. So, yeah, we're lucky to have the water we have.
Yeah, we are, and it's sometimes it's just in the messaging, Rick, and like I said, I'm grateful that you're now on that board, because I think I don't know you well, but when I've seen you at debates and seen you talking, I think your messaging is excellent. I think that's what we need on MDC. So thank you for your service as far as that goes.
Thanks, John.
Ronnie, any parting shots before we go on to our next guest?
No, other than I actually was able to write down a lot of what you said, but if you have anything else to add other than what you have said here as far as a statement about the election, if you could send that to me either in a text or email, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So thanks, guys.
All right.
I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks so much, Rick.
Thank you so much for coming on. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully we can get you on in the future.
I'm always here. So thanks a lot.
Thank you,
All
Rick.
right.
Nice to see you.
Nice to
Again.
see you too.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to bring Rocky back. I don't think we've got Mark Merritt, so we're going to bring Rocky back, and we can talk water with Rocky. I have to tell you, I really enjoyed that conversation about the MDC, and I thought that was a really interesting perspective that he brought to the table. I mean, Ronnie, I don't know, I kind of dominated the conversation.
No. So, and I was actually looking up some national results while you were talking about that. I've talked to Rick at length about the MDC issues, and actually, when I first met Rick, he was hip deep in water that had backed up in his basement because
and that lasted days and days, if I remember.
Oh yeah,
that was not a one-day deal. That was a
I
week.
remember that too.
mess.
So yeah, Rocky Holland, by the way. Rocky Holland is welcome. We're just going to throw you up and not introduce you, Rocky, because that's the way we roll. But Rocky and Sandy and I are the three admins of the West Hartford Political Forum. And the funny story is, I always thought it was this right-wing group. And
now everybody thinks it's a left-wing group. That's hysterical.
Good. You know what?
The pendulum has completely swung on the page.
If both sides hate you, you're doing something right. So,
I can say I've been called every name from left wing. I'm not going to use expletives because this is a family show, but I've also been called right wing.
After 10 o'clock,
back in those.
Weehaw blue, and then you can use the 4-letter words. But before you're not allowed to. So but something, and I don't remember what it was. I don't even know if we want to go into it if you recall what it was. But something happened with Jillian, and I got involved, and I was basically, it was a, I don't want to say quid pro quo because that implies, but it was like basically like, we'll help fix a situation where somebody was being disrespectful, but will you come be the admin of the page? And my comment was, Jillian's about the only person in the world I would do that for. So other than maybe my wife, but
there was a crazy person that had infiltrated the page and several other pages and was really going after Jillian hard. And so you had contacted us, and I flat out said this was one of those days where the page was just growing to the point that we couldn't really concentrate all the efforts on it anymore if both of us happened to be working that day. And I just said, is there any way you would like to come and help us out? And you did, and I really appreciate that.
Let's give the page a plug. West Hartford Political Forum. For those of you watching, just type it in your search bar on Facebook. Anybody can join. You just have to be local to West Hartford. I think that
the conversation
and be respectful.
A lot of fun, yeah.
An offshoot of Neighbors and Friends, and it's been a good page. And you and I've gotten to know each other. You had Ronnie and I on the wine show,
No, that just recently came up in my Facebook memories. It was
The
what?
wine, was it a year? It was a year that we did the wine show already, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet that the last time the three of us were on a show together was just before the world came to a crashing halt, I guess.
Really
A
did.
couple shows before that, and then we kind of all went underground, and so now here we are on this. But
Well, we've got Mark Merritt, who is the chair of the Republican Town Committee, and we got him ready to join. So, Rocky, you stay. Why don't you stay?
I'll hang tight. Yep.
And let's see if we get him. Let's see if it goes. There we go. Mark Merritt, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today? Sorry, I'm a little
Hey,
late.
Mark.
Guys, there was a communication issue, and I apologize that you got last word on this, but we definitely wanted to get you on. So we had Rick Bush on. I think I'm not out of line saying he conceded, but he did overachieve what his goal was. What's your take on some of the Republican candidates locally tonight? Any thoughts? Any numbers? Any of that?
Oh, well, no, John, thanks for everything, and thanks for the opportunity. Sorry for the locale here. No, I think Rick ran a great campaign, great issues that he was running on to promote and help us get better as a town and as a state. And Mary, the same thing from her congressional district. I hopefully this election cycle, at least with all the news that we've had here, will allow folks that want to get involved to take a stand and get involved here going forward, so we can have more of a lively debate about the issues that are affecting our town and our state.
I saw some raw numbers. I don't want to share them because they were raw and they were not at all official. But Mary got a lot of votes. I saw it in the 9th district. She got some. It wasn't a trouncing. She got some votes. And again, I don't know where the districts are located. I know the 7th because I'm in the 7th. But Mary has she's made headway in this town. She's got a lot of supporters.
She does, and you can see that by the numbers. And when we look at the polling, and you break it down by the districts, there are certain pockets in town that we do really well, where the folks are willing to listen to the issues, come out and understand what the challenges are, and vote for the person that they feel that could drive those issues home for them personally. So there are a lot of areas of town that we see that, and with Rick's campaign and a few other spots where it was a closer race than what numbers traditionally vet out. So challenging for us, John, usually is the town hall district. That always has been a spot for us that to try to cut into that numbers of the independents and moderates that are in that district there. So that's always been challenging. But the other places in town we did pretty well. I feel.
I made that comment to Rick that running in the 18th, which is within that town hall district, that's a tough district to run. With a very well-known opponent. I speculated on the 20th, which I think is a little bit of. Is that an easier turf for the GOP, or am I kind of misreading that?
I would love to say that I have some history there with that one, but John, we haven't really had any candidate to run in that district for quite a while, so I'm not really familiar with the places there. But I do feel that Elmwood, the 20th, is a spot that would resonate for some of our messages. But unfortunately, we haven't really had a candidate to come out of that district to really see, for me, during my chairmanship so far.
The town, it went a long, long time being predominantly Republican. It's now gone a long, long time being predominantly Democrat. How do you move that needle in a way that resonates with everybody?
Well, I think part of what we need to be doing is, what is our vision as a GOP here in West Hartford? What is our vision for West Hartford? And part of one of the things that we are going to be promoting over the next couple of months is what our vision is and what our platform is. I think one of the things that we have struggled with is what are we standing for? What are we trying to drive? And what is our vision? And I think what we've done is we've come up with a great platform that is going to hit on 4 key areas: education, safety and security, business development, and fiscal responsibility. So those 4 pillars are going to be something you'll hear from us, John, as to what we're standing for, what we're trying to accomplish, so we can get a message out there and just not be linked in normally with maybe the national or federal policies that are happening, but what's happening here locally. So that's how I can move the needle. And then also with the growth that we've seen in the RTC, we've got a lot of number of new people that want to be involved over the last couple election cycles, get involved. And so I'm seeing a lot more people wanting to join and more active. And so we are creating a good communication tree to actually get that message out and then seeing our platform forward. for the next election cycle. I'm looking forward to November of 2021 and having a great slate of candidates to actually create our vision and move our vision forward.
Ronnie, any questions for Mark?
No, I think I'm good. I was trying to take some notes, but my pen ran out of ink, which
Okay.
never a good thing.
Well, I know you guys are over at Rockledge, and you've got some things to do over there. So, Mark, thank you so much. Rocky, do you have any questions for Mark?
No, I didn't even know that I was unmuted. So
Yeah, you are. We've been listening to
in on the discussion.
this Alexa or whatever it is. We've been listening to Alexa this whole interview.
No, I think you've pretty much covered it. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Mark.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, and look forward to seeing the results here tonight.
Thank you so much for coming on, Mark. We'll see you soon.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Take
Thanks
care.
so much, Mark. Nice to see you.
You too. Bye now.
So there we have it. We have made it through our guests. We are actually almost to the minute on schedule, which is pretty good. Everybody showed up. It was a good show. Rocky, what are some of your parting thoughts? What are you seeing? Any news? Are you guys seeing anything online? I gave you the Colorado. Have you guys seen anything?
So I've been watching. I know it's a fool's errand to go watching these county by county races. It looks like Biden is overperforming in Ohio.
Yeah,
it looks like he's overperforming in North Carolina. It looks like Trump is probably going to win Florida. Biden underperformed a little bit in Miami-Dade, which was kind of big there.
That surprised me. That
surprised me too. Yeah.
I was looking at the early numbers in Florida and everywhere across the board, 3%, 4%. You know, he was higher than Clinton performed 4 years ago.
Yeah, he was up 0.9 in the Real Clear Politics average of all the polls right before this, and it looks like at this point I've got the TV right behind me here. It looks like there's 92% are in, and Trump is up by 3% right now. So,
wow.
And that's with most of the blue counties that are in. So I think it would be tough at this point. Anything can happen. The thing that makes this really tough to follow is that, you know, I've been watching these my entire life, and you kind of watch them as they come in, but we've never had this element before where there is this huge mail-in ballot part of it, and so you kind of wonder, how is that going to affect as we look at the early numbers versus is there going to be a surge later on in the night, and if so, is it going to benefit the Democrats, the Republicans, or is it going to be neutral? And from what I hear, I guess the conventional wisdom is that more Democrats have done the mail-in and have done early voting. I don't really know how they determine that, but and so possibly as you're looking at places like North Carolina, which looks like North Carolina and Ohio could potentially go to Biden, but then at the end there could be this pop where all of the people that went and voted today get counted, and so it's just really hard to say. I don't even know how to look at it.
Well, and I think every state counts it differently. So early voting, probably those numbers, we're seeing them now, but absentee ballot voting is different depending on the state.
I mean, I can give you a rundown. So far, there's no surprises at all. Biden's got Delaware, D.C., Maryland, Massachusetts, Vermont, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Colorado. Trump has Indiana, Tennessee, Ohio, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Kentucky, Arkansas, South Dakota. And I've been sitting here for 20 minutes, so there's probably been a couple of other random ones, but nothing that jumps out thus far.
I stopped watching, obviously, to do this broadcast about 2 hours ago, and it just seemed like across the board, even in Trump country, Kentucky, Indiana, that Biden was trending a couple of points higher than Clinton did 4 years ago. And I think
it does seem that way. Yeah, it does seem that way.
Tells me the blue wall's going to hold. That if Ohio, I'm really shocked if Ohio goes to Biden.
I mean,
I thought Ohio with its Republican governor, and I know it's a moderate, but I really thought the whole fracking conversation and manufacturing conversation was going to steer Ohio toward Trump. So this is going to be interesting. It's going to be a long night. I'm a junkie for this. So when we sign out, I'll probably watch TV for the next 5 hours to watch it, even though I don't think we're going to get quite the closure that we would hope.
No, and in that fracking conversation, really where that comes into play is Pennsylvania. All eyes on Pennsylvania. 3 big states.
Results from Pennsylvania, Rocky?
Nothing that's, I think they're at maybe 2/3 of the votes are in so far, but there's really way too early to determine anything in Pennsylvania.
Who's leading there now?
You have a better map than I do because I'm only showing.
I don't have a map, unfortunately. Rocky's lucky. You guys are
Oh
lucky.
no, I'm wrong about that. Pennsylvania just got started. I'm sorry. Who was I looking at?
They might have closed at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is way too early to determine. But I do think, though, that if Pennsylvania if this thing comes down to Pennsylvania, it's going to be a mess. And there's a pretty good possibility that could be the case. I mean, you were looking at, there's 3 key states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, that were the ones that we say that Trump needs to at least pick up one of those, in particular Pennsylvania. I don't think he has much of a shot at Michigan, possibly Wisconsin, but if he doesn't pick up one of those, then he's done for. If he didn't pick up Florida, it looks like he's probably going to pick up Florida. So if Biden had gotten Florida, I think we could go to bed early, knowing that Biden's going to win the thing. But if the way that it's shaping up right now and the way that it's just kind of looking, it looks like we might not know this thing tonight.
It's fascinating. I've got my reporter hat on now, but it's just fascinating that Trump behaves like no other politician ever before,
And that's-
at least
and-
ever in the last 100 years.
And his electorate behaves differently when it comes to polling versus voting, and that's what kind of throws a wrench in the gears, because you look at what happened in 2016. I've never seen a discrepancy like there is in what the pollsters are hearing. And this idea that people say, if you're CNN, you want to make your guy look good, or if you're Fox News, you want to make your guy look good, or Quinnipiac, or whoever it is, Reuters. The bottom line is these people have a vested interest to get it correct. So they want to get it correct. And the fact that they're missing it does not make them very happy at all. And so we're kind of just looking at this thing going, I don't know who to look at. That's why I like Real Clear Politics, because it kind of takes an average of all of them. But really, I've never gone into an election feeling like it's just basically a blind shot in the dark. It's kind of like it's the Super Bowl, and it's the fourth quarter, and we're down to the 2-minute warning, and everybody's just kind of going, God, I hope this thing doesn't go into overtime, because I don't want to have to deal with this any longer.
My part is because we lose TV in about 6 minutes, and we have a video that we're going to close with that was produced by WHCI TV. What are you seeing in Texas, Rocky?
Texas looked to be, from the county breakdowns that they had so far when I left it looked at Biden was performing pretty well in Texas, but I just glanced up and it looks like Trump might have picked up the lead in Texas, because there were a lot of the traditionally red counties that were still not reported yet. So I don't think there's much to tell from Texas yet, but from the counties that they were breaking down county by county, it looked like Biden was doing well in some of the counties that Clinton did not do well in.
I think Texas is going to be a big story over the next 12 hours. I think Texas.
I don't know. You might be right. You might be wrong. It's
new registered voters, the bulk of which between 18 and 24 years old. I think.
There's a big turnout in Texas, though. So that could help the Democrats.
That's going to be something for a lot of people to talk about. So, Ronnie, any parting words before I start the closing video?
No, I think I'm good. And Rocky, just thank you for letting me post all my local political articles on the political forum page. Appreciate
Thank you for
that
posting
extra
them.
exposure.
Anything I can do to help you guys. Sandy and I fully believe you are a favorite reporter anywhere. Like you're great for this town. Everything that you do, we really appreciate it.
You're looking for fake news, go elsewhere.
If you're looking for, you are not the Onion. If you're looking for fake news, go elsewhere. You're really right down the middle. We like what you do.
Thank you very much.
Rocky,
Appreciate
thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate your time. Please say hello to Sandy. And one more time, I'll give the page a plug. West Hartford Political Forum. If you have a minute, sign up for it. It's really a lot of fun. It's really interesting. A lot of good discussion on there. And the admins do a pretty good job of keeping the riffraff off so it doesn't get too abusive or anything. So anyway, thank you, Rocky. I'm going to sign you out, and then Ronnie and I are going to say goodbye for the night, and we'll put the video on, okay?
All right. Good night, guys.
Thanks, Rocky.
All right.
See you.
Good night, Rocky.
All right. So, Ronnie, we did it. I want to give one plug. I never plug our Twitter pages. So I want to just wrap up. We Hartford. So at We Hartford.
At We Hartford, yeah.
Is Ronnie's Twitter page. Hartfordland, one word, Hartfordland is my Twitter page. So follow us on Twitter. You can find out how truly interesting we are or aren't. But do follow us on Twitter because we do put stuff up on occasion, and I usually complain about the Jets there. But
Well, I've tweeted a lot of local election news today, though. I've had some updates on what was going on at the polls and some photos, and I do a lot of retweeting of the police and fire departments and things like that. So just keeping up to date on local news. I don't originate too much on Twitter, but I do a lot of retweeting of important local information.
worth following us. Do we know if we have a guest on Thursday night yet, or do we not want to announce anything yet?
I don't
No
know.
announcements.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to tune into Neighbors and Friends and WeHow tomorrow. So we got to find out if we have a guest. We might have a good one for Thursday night. Otherwise, we won't do another show this week. We'll take a week off and recover from this election stuff. So, Ronnie, thank you. Don't go away. I'm just going to take the videos down because I got to get this video going. Let me see how to do this here. There we go. And boom.
For me, I wanted to be sure that the vote was counted and there'd be no controversy about it.
I just was afraid early on that there could be mix-ups with the mail-in ballots, and I didn't want my vote not to count. So that's why I chose to come in person.
Well, when the request for ballots came out, the COVID was under control. So, it looked like things wouldn't be so bad. And then it's gotten much worse again, but too late now, so we're going to vote.
I think, one, I feel an obligation that I wanted to make sure my vote counted. I don't think it's going to be wrong to do an absentee, but it's something I've done for the last, let's say, 50-some years.
Not messing around. I want to make sure that my vote's counted.
I felt more secure voting in person.
I don't trust mail-in. So that's why I'm here. Even I'm old, 75 years old, disabled, and I still vote in person.
I want to make sure that my vote's counted. I know there's a lot of stuff going on about, potential, for not counting votes. I want to make sure that my vote counts.
Not that I did not trust the system, but I have always voted in person. And just being here, being present on this day, exercising my right on this very day, I believe is significant. And just being part of this crowd that is here to exercise their right to vote.
I think that fortunately I don't have underlying conditions. We're taking precautions. We voted in the primaries in person and it felt very safe. And I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity to do this on Election Day.
I think everybody did a wonderful job at ensuring that voting took place on the ground floor, that we didn't have to take the stairs. And there were a lot of young folk. We were very happy to see the young ones participating in the carrying out duties that would have probably been handled by the older generation in the past. So that was very, very significant.
Super safe. Everybody, kept their distance. They were sanitizing pens. You can bring your own pen. They had, the plexiglass, and everybody was very respectful.
Yeah, they did a really great job wiping everything down, keeping people spaced out. It was good stuff.
Very safe, very safe. They did a very good job. I'm very impressed at the speed at which it got through. Fortunately, there was not a lot of referendums you have to read through, but I thought they did a great job cleaning up in between. Everything was perfect. This is exactly the way Dr. Fauci would want it to be done.
Social distancing, everyone was wearing a mask. The crowd wasn't that large. It was steady, but not that large. No, it was not terrible.
All right, so some really good feedback from voters today. I think that was excellent. So, Ronnie, tremendous show. Thank you for everything, and thank you for putting up with me pestering you pretty much nonstop for about the last 10 days on this. But I think we we pulled it off. So now we even have the music queued up. If I can figure out how to play it, we can call it a night. So,
Well, thank you, John. Thank you very, very much for all the work that you did to organize this and make this a success. Pretty much all I did was show up. So I really appreciate that you that you pulled all this together. And thank you very much to Jen Evans too at WHCI for
Yeah,
working with us on.
Gotta thank Jen Evans. Kudos to her. And she also put that video together we just showed with all the voters giving their experience. So kudos to Jen. So for Ronnie Newton, I'm John Lyons for weha.com, and we'll see you on the next show, which might be this week, might be next week, but we got a lot of great guests coming up. So definitely keep paying attention.